All righty. I think we're ready to go.
All right. Thanks for coming again. And again, I'm Lance Grotto, Director of Business Licensing. Today, as some of you obviously a repeat from yesterday, where we kind of just did an introduction of Title IV and Title V. Pretty broad talk yesterday, nothing too specific, just some major bullet points. But today, we're going to start diving in a little deeper. Alex, why don't you skip ahead a little bit? You can skip past that as well. For those of you that weren't here yesterday and listening in on Zoom, the whole intent of these meetings is to get feedback and to get what we oftentimes get the comments that we're not being business friendly, right? What does that mean to you from the perspective of your business and these types of licenses in general? If you're just here listening broadly to everything, I'm happy to take your comments as well, but it's really nice if you do hold one of these licenses that you can give some specific scenarios and instances where it has affected you, then that's great as well. So again, today we'll be talking a little bit about alcohol, the gaming code, and tobacco paraphernalia. Go ahead and skip next. So the alcohol code, I've broken it into a couple slides here, but I've pulled out things that we often run into as far as complaints, confusion, difficulty regulating, things like that. So I want to start with prohibited activities. So generally speaking, I'm just skip through here one more. You're good. You don't have to read all that if you don't want, but essentially, unlawful for any licensee of an establishment to permit the creation of noises which unreasonably disturb any person's ordinary sensibilities in any adjoining room. We get a lot of this. How do you interpret that? How is what is an ordinary sensibility? How loud is too loud? We get that from the city regulation side. We get that from the neighboring businesses. We even get it from the licensee sometimes. Like, I don't want to make this. They want to be proactive and say, like, what does that mean? How loud can it be? We don't really talk about decibel readings or anything like that in our business licensing code. Sometimes that's mentioned in planning code, nuisance code, things like that. But this is a topic of discussion from time to time. So if any of you have questions on this kind of thing or comments on noise in general, and like I said, this is specific to bars, it's in the alcohol code, right? Restaurants, bars, cabaret activity, that kind of things. Yes, sir.
The biggest problem I have with that is there's no time.
Sure.
Is it 8 a.m. to 10 p.m.?
Sure. Okay.
I think that needs to be spelled out.
Okay, good. Let's get feedback. Anybody else on this specific topic right here? Gary?
Is this the right time to?
Sure. Yeah, you can discuss that.
Okay. So actually, I have a specific thing to ask for consideration, and that is that the code include noise standards that measure what's called a CLC weighted decibel scale. Okay. Just to define that, so that we know we're on the same page. This is currently on 16, 17 almost jurisdictions, cities within the United States. They measure a C noise scale. And in Jacksonville, Florida, they actually have police officers enforcing that. And for them, the C scale weighting allows the sound meter to pick up low frequencies. These are the intrusive subwoofer type of bass sounds. If you have a home theater yourself, you probably have a button on your door that says SW subwoofer. It's the heavy bass sound. So it's the bass sounds that can penetrate structures and result in physical sensation. This type of bass is not readable using the A scale. Most quality sound meters are already equipped with C scale weighting and can be changed from A to C with a simple switch. When properly applied, the C scale is available tool. So it's out there. Why am I saying this now? Downtown, we have 5 bars and nightclubs, and they run very well, I'm sure. We want them to be very successful. But over the course of the last few years, there have been more and more complaints from residents, and there are about 500 that are in direct sound of those 5 nightclubs and bars. And they go to 6 o'clock in the morning. So it's all night. And we've reported many times, a number of us, to Reno Direct, and code enforcement has been wonderful going out. But funnily enough, when they go out and we hear it, the sound meters don't hear it. It does not register. And the reason is what they're registering. The only thing that's in this code right now in terms of the nature of the noise that can be measured is A scale, which if it's music, it might be lyrics, it might be high-end guitar, things like that. But the very booming bass sounds that are heard, that were just described there, they haven't got anything to enforce it. Okay. So that's why we're asking for that in particular. We want the businesses to be successful. We just would like the noise to be contained better than it is right now and to be identified as such. Otherwise, to the point you made earlier, how would a business owner, a bar or nightclub owner know whether they're within tolerance or not? Sure. And there's no way of it. Okay. So we've let code enforcement know. As I said, there are 17 other jurisdictions we found so far that have language regarding this for the same reasons in the code. And we would really appreciate consideration for something to be added to this code for the benefit of people, not just downtown, but anywhere where these heavy booming bass sounds are disturbances.
Okay, great, thank you.
Let me ask one other question here. This is under an alcohol license or a privilege license.
Correct.
Is that necessarily the correct place for this to be, or should it be in the general so that you're looking at amplified noise coming out of any other type of business?
Great point.
At certain times, so it may be where this wants to fall out into the normal and simply be referenced here because it is not applicable just to that particular privilege license.
Yeah, great point.
So it may be move everything into a standard and only put things that are specific to the privilege license under the privilege license so that people can know where to find it. Sure. More than anything.
Sure. Yeah, thanks. Anybody else comments on that? Yeah.
And I'm kind of on the opposite side of that. The downtown core is an entertainment district. People move in, it's like Vegas and here. That's where bars are, but I do agree with him under, you know, disturbing the peace at a certain time of night, maybe at 2. They could be outside doing the decibels. And I have tenants that own bars, but I'm in more of an industrial area. I'm not in the middle of the downtown core. But you can't do nothing about the church bills. You can't do nothing about the train. It comes all day and night. There's nothing you can do. They should put some windows in. But this is an entertainment district downtown. And since they did move there, you have to be, you know, see some of the points because you know, there's a lot more people that don't live downtown than do. And so I think maybe, you know, a noise decibel should be enforced after a certain time of night, but it's a 24-hour town. The casinos are open all night too. And so I think maybe to try to help some of the residents, that, you know, current code should be more soundproofing of the windows. But in the meantime, maybe do a certain decibel code after a certain time of night, like 2 to 6 in the morning, to where, you know, code enforcement, if they get enough complaints, could go down, sit outside, because they should keep the noise inside of the establishment at certain times of night, maybe, and that would maybe help the residents too, that it is an entertainment district. So can't move the train, can't move the bell. So I'm opposite on that, but I still would like to help them somehow with that. But otherwise, it's an entertainment district.
Okay.
I mean, this is probably discussed later as well, but
yeah,
I would like to see that, how you were saying, that Virginia Street should be like a corridor that is part of entertainment, can have later hours for activities and have much more interaction over, you know, that's the Virginia Street corridor. You know, clearly people know if you live around here, there's bars, there's restaurants, it's active. That's what we're trying to do. You're trying to activate downtown. And if you start putting more requirements on these businesses, downtown is going to continue to just lose momentum as it is now, as well as Midtown. And we're already starting to see that. The more requirements you put on these businesses, it's harder to stay open, how to make the money to pay these rents. You know, so if you live within the Virginia corridor from downtown through Midtown, there should be an exception to that rule. All this whole, you know, somehow how do we put that in?
Okay, because there are a lot of empty buildings downtown in case you didn't notice. Sure. Right.
Were you going to say something?
Just in response to some of the comments, we are going to attend the Title 18 Land Use Code, same kind of process that's going to start at the end of this month into November. We've already registered for that.
Okay.
And we have quite a lot of people downtown that are going to be behind this on that and to give their point of view. Let me just be very clear. We are not interested in anybody closing because of the thing that we're looking for.
Sure.
And we have visited personally, a number of us, bar owners, bar operators, with a view to being good neighbours on both sides. We referred people down for business, especially one that just opened. We actually had something in our building saying, why don't you go and check this out? We just want reciprocity and being good neighbours. We want them to succeed. We want them all to make plenty of money. We want people to have a good time when they come to town. But we just want a little protection. We don't expect it to be a monastery. We didn't when we moved there. We wanted it to be a monastery. We like a lot of the things that go on. It's a matter of degree. And with the change in music to like electronic dance music in particular, boom, boom, that's all we hear. That is all we hear. And it's not consistent, so it's not like noise in the background. It disturbs you. And we're just asking, to your point, during those early morning hours, a bit of consideration. By the way, there was another nightclub that's not in business now. Same thing about 5 years ago. And they voluntarily put in soundproofing, they put in a vestibule, they made sure that the vibrations did not go through the outer building. And lo and behold, they could turn up their volume. And yet, because they did that, we didn't hear anything. So it can be done in a way that benefits both the residents and the bar owners.
Okay.
Just
Great. Okay. Anybody else on that topic right here? No? Okay. Let's go to the next one.
Oh, sorry, one more thing. On each subject, you being in business licensing, so we can have an informed discussion.
Sure.
Can you let me know the things you'll be addressing and the problems you've had? Because you get more of the complaints that we do, so we don't want to expose more than you thought of. Sure. So let us know on the things you're trying to change. So we can discuss those.
Yeah, and like this, as a bringing up this kind of thing, like these are like I said, I've tried to pull some points, some major discussion points that we do get complaints on, or we get concerns from interdepartmental conversations, things like that. So yeah, I'll bring that stuff up as we come across it. So yeah. Next slide. So Safescape area. This may have affected any number of convenience stores or anybody selling packaged alcohol downtown, realistically. For those of you that are not really aware of what it does is looking at the slide here, the inner circle in downtown here is called the downtown Safescape area. And these are prohibited products to be sold in those areas. There's a whole slew of requirements from height marker requirements, bell sounds on the door, outdoor storage, window coverings, all that kind of stuff. And that's all been laws that have been around for a long time. They were in Title 18 previously, but they were moved over to Title 5 about 2 years, year and a half ago. Some of the new stuff that was added, though, are these prohibited sales. Wine containers less than 750, restrictions on certain size of beer and on the packs you can sell, distilled spirits in containers less than 375. So that means no more of the little shots that everybody was selling. They're not allowed to sell those in that area downtown anymore. And then paper plastic cups, and they're less than their normal packaging. This buffer area, the orange space, and then in the green space, those are called Safescape buffer areas. This is what applies. The same rules apply, except only in these hours. So all of the requirements of the security all still stand 24 hours a day, but the prohibited products can't be sold from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. They can only be sold at night. So this is relatively new as far as the enforcement. It was adopted by council in early 2022. It just went into effect in July, and that was an 18-month buffer for people to, change their product type, their product offerings, maybe come up with new ideas, get rid of their existing inventory. And so now this has just gone into effect as of July 12th, I believe it was. And the reason I bring this up is because we get a lot of discussion on what products are being sold, if there is any leniency in the types, the packaging, distilled spirits in less than 375. So if they come in more than a single pack, if it's a 10 pack, right? Does that count? Well, currently as the law was written, it's nothing can be sold. Doesn't matter if it's packaged together or not. But we have had people inquire. And so this I thought would be an opportunity for people to share their thoughts. Obviously, it's only been a few months, so it's hard to tell from our side. I'm sure that the business owners can tell us how it's affected them. But I'd just like to hear a little bit of comment on that.
What is the purpose behind this, out of curiosity?
Well, the primary thing that came into play here was there was a lot of litter. And anywhere you went downtown, you found these little single shots. Okay. And I think that was the impetus like 5-6 years ago. this is, I guess it's more like 7 years ago now. This was a process that started to be built and discussed probably around 2017, 18. And then it lagged along while research was done, and then COVID hit, and when we came back from COVID, then they tried to button it down and get it in place. So again, from our side, from your side, it's still very young, I guess, in its its implementation. So I'd love to hear any comments that store owners or.
So you're basing it on trash?
No, sir. That was one of the main impetus, I believe, was it was like, how do we clean this up, right? And then how do we evolve? How do we get rid of, the unnecessary sales of just a liquor store, right? We're just going through, I'm just a liquor store. I'm licensed as a convenience store. So if you're licensed as a convenience store, the hope would be that there would be other offerings, right? Not just liquor. A lot of these places were creating food deserts. So that was another issue that a couple council members jumped on. Let's provide 10% food. That's one of the things that I didn't put on this slide, prohibited products, but it's a 10% requirement. 10% of floor space has to be allotted to the sale of food, fresh food.
And I get that about the empty bottles.
Sure.
They're little bottles and they're big bottles.
Sure.
Right? And I support cleaning, getting that cleaned up. I don't like it. But are you going to do the same thing to cigarettes?
Right? No, make a point.
Right?
Sure.
They're both legal products.
Sure.
They're licensed. So I think that really needs to come into play. And I think a lot of the store owners, maybe they need to take a little bit of ownership in cleaning up around their area.
Sure.
I think the majority of them do, but some of them don't, like the ones you've closed down, and I think that's been effective. As far as the buffer, I've walked around downtown. I represent Sazerac. They do Fireball on a couple others. And I've walked around inside the buffer, outside the buffer to get some feedback of what they're experiencing. I know Eric's gotten some comments from a couple of the stores about disgruntled customers not being able to do it, to buy the minis. But the only thing that's done is they go up, they buy a bigger bottle. So if it's the alcohol consumption, I think you're missing the boat there.
Okay.
I think there's a fine line in all of this. It's not one ordinance that's going to fit everything. It's got to be flexible. And I think a lot of it needs to go to your discretion, not in an ordinance. Like a building design, it works over here, but it doesn't work over here. So put an administrative review in, and if the business is being a poorly run business affecting the community badly, you have to deal with that one. Don't penalize the good guys, because a lot of these people rely on these sales. I've seen the sales. The decrease in sales range from anywhere between 10% to 95%. That's just on my product. That's not the real popular ones like Jameson, the other whiskeys, Jack Daniels. I don't know what their numbers are. I hope those guys will be here to participate, but you're really affecting the operators, the good operators who are trying to run a good, clean business. You've put the height markers in there, gotten stuff off the windows. I think that looks really good, better for downtown. And I think the majority of the operators like that. They agree with it. It makes them accountable. The other thing, and I've got this in written comments for you.
Great.
Put it in the electronic age verification for alcohol sales, just like you do tobacco.
Mm-hmm.
So these people who are causing the problem should not be buying those, whether they're the 50, the minis, or 375 or 750. I think you hold them accountable. Tobacco does it. That's state law.
That went into effect January 1st this year.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
For tobacco, it's not for alcohol, right?
And we second, we want to see, I represent the Nevada Petroleum Marketer and Convenience Store Association, and we also want to see the electronic age verification be implemented into the alcohol code as well.
Okay.
I have a couple questions. So what are the other main points for the SafeScape So you have trash.
I mean, why it came along?
Exactly, yeah.
You know, I can provide some more information for you separately. Like there was a whole, I mean, there was a business impact statement that was 5 years of research done on this stuff. I'm like a semi subject matter expert on that. Like I've learned it as I've gone with it. But I'm happy to share that kind of stuff with you, going forward. And I can probably put a link to it on the website.
And then second, from your side, because we know that this just went into effect during the summer, what have you seen on your side of the fence?
It's early, but we have had comments from people, basically just code enforcement officers that are, or ambassadors that are in the area saying like, you know, you asked them, have you seen a decrease in just, you know, general issues, trash laying around, stuff like that? No, nothing there. No comments to say like, oh yeah, it's way better, it's way worse. Saying like, yeah, we've seen a decrease, but you know, there's, like I said, it's only been a couple months. It's very, very early. I hope to have some more data by like the end of the year, once we've had about 6 months under our belt. We're obviously going to be doing spot checks on these licensees to make sure that they're following the rules. And then we'll find out more from that as well. We're kind of letting everybody kind of wind into this so that we just didn't show up on July 13th and say, hey, gotcha, you know. And so that's kind of where we're at right now.
Yeah, so as a store owner in downtown, kind of get some information out there for you guys. So the mini bottles, as you said, that you wanted to clean up downtown. Sure. I'm sure it's cleaned up, but majority of it was because the shelter was moved. Right. That made a huge difference. Okay. Right from that, so that was a great move to move out there. But then after that, we were still selling the bottles, but it cleaned up just by itself. Okay. Right. Even while we were selling, got rid of it in July. You'll definitely see cleaner area, right? Just the way it was. But again, you're just getting more drunk. Right. So we've countered that where we're getting more problems as you're right. They're not getting the small ones, but they're going to find a way to get the big ones. Some of these guys, they just need to get through the day. Get them to buy the bigger ones, and they're getting more problems. They're getting a lot more problems just because people are drinking more, right? A little bit they spend, they'll get their fix and they're happy. But a lot of people are coming in, getting more problems. I don't know if there's anything that the buffer area, so that's one thing I'm confused on why the buffer area is able to sell that much and not downtown. Doesn't change anything for downtown or the buffer area.
The intent behind it was to make it kind of a staggered approach, right? Because it's like, okay, here's the line. You can sell it here, you can't sell it there. So it was like, okay, let's bleed it in, you know, and make it so if it's going to be prohibited downtown, you can leak out a little bit. Okay, it's allowed certain times of the day, and then after that, it's normal.
Sure.
And that was the idea behind the buffer.
But the whole idea of that is, okay, well, you're just kind of bringing it in, as you said, bleeding it out, but then it's disadvantage for the people that are downtown anyways, which our taxes are more, our permits are still going to be the exact same price. You're taking away the alcohol, but the permits and all those prices stay the exact same, right? So how is that fair to the ones that are downtown?
The other thing in that is, yes, is with these two zones, Lance.
Yeah.
And I'm not being combative. I'm just sharing.
No, I love to hear it. Yeah.
What I've heard and witnessed, and I have the data in my sheets. Unfortunately, it's confidential, proprietary information. But the other thing we're seeing is they can't buy it downtown in the court. They're going across the street, like over to Ben's, or they're going up further north on North McCarran. They're just going to a different location where they can buy it, or they'll go to Walmart. So that buffer really, I don't think it's accomplishing anything.
Okay. Well, thanks for sharing that. Yeah.
A few different things. So the old one, because I remember when they stopped giving packaged liquor licenses. So are the old ones that had them going to keep current, or they're just taking it from everybody in that section?
So in the downtown area, there's 18 packaged alcohol licenses that's the cap.
And they're going to keep them?
And we're at 18 right now. They've been there, but they can't sell these products.
Okay, so they're just taking it away then.
They've taken that ability away from the downtown shop.
See, that ain't right either. Like they did to that one market across from the bus stop there. You know, it calls a service on the bus stop. So that formula's messed up too. And then I agree with Chris on the bad actors thing. I mean, it's like any business. If you have bad actors, not everybody should suffer, just the ones that aren't doing it correctly. I agree with that. And then it depends too on your research, who's doing the research and what they want is of the council, who they're hiring, and then they put in their input, and then that research will turn out how they wanted it. And I got the cure for all of it. Why don't downtown, and this bid's the biggest waste of money ever. We need more police on the streets, the bid's a waste of money. And then we're spending all this money. All the people downtown are putting into this fund that they increase the loop. So I pay into it on some of my buildings, and you never see an ambassador down 4th Street, and they don't do anything anyway. And then, but if they cleaned up the homeless, the problem would be solved. We'd have a cleaner downtown and not peeing and pooping in the doorways. So they're just trying to circumvent what the issue is, and that's the homeless. So if they ever dealt with that issue, a lot of this would go away and we'd have a cleaner town. So,
okay, thank you. Yeah. Is there anybody online that has been raising their hand just to check in?
We'll check, but no.
Okay. Any more comments on this specific topic right now? No? Okay, can you go to the next one? Cabaret licenses. There's a lot of confusion sometimes on what constitutes the need for a cabaret license, and over the past couple of years, we've had a lot of questions and complaints like, what can I have? Why do I have to have a license for this? And again, I've underlined and kind of made it easy to read: singing, dancing, floor show, and other live entertainment subject. Those are the types are subject to revocation if an unreasonably disturbs a person. Blah blah blah. At the end of the day, singing, dancing, floor show, other live entertainment. That's basically what we have to work off of. That definition is lacking, in my opinion. We lean on the definition of live entertainment in NRS, and that's how we arrive at the decisions we make on who needs a cabaret license. It basically is it's live entertainment. It could be bands, it could be any type of show, any type, some sort of a game that somebody's bringing. They're running around the room with a microphone, talking to everybody, making jokes, doing trivia, that kind of thing. That kind of stuff doesn't apply. So I don't know if in your experience you've had any issues with this, or if you have any concerns on how it's licensed, any recommendations, any sort of like this would be better. Yeah.
So say you have like a flower shop, and you decide to have some friends in and have a band. Yeah. And just your business is a flower shop. Do you have to get a cabaret license? So
if it's just a one-time thing and you're having it on your premises, that would be a special activity. And so it's a special activity is something, there's special events and special activities, and activities on private property, events, public property. And if it's open to the public, you would apply for a special activity permit, invite people in. They basically make sure like you're licensed to be a flower shop. So fire department, they want to see like, okay, what happens when we put a band in here and we stuff 50 people in? Like, what does that look like? And we have the right, the right eyes on it. So that's a little bit different than a cabaret license. If you were going to do it all the time, then yeah, you want to amend your license to be a flower shop and concert venue or something, and then you could get a cabaret license and do it any time you want it. So depends on the amount of use and things like that.
What comes with a cabaret license?
Basically just the ability to provide live entertainment without any sort of a permit. Okay. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm a cabaret license holder, and I really have no problem with the definition. I mean, okay. Karaoke, we have live music. That pretty much covers everything right there.
Okay, good to hear.
Someone understand.
That's good to know too.
So, go ahead. I noticed it doesn't say about inside or outside. Is that covered anywhere?
Yeah. So if it's like something where a bar wanted to do it in the parking lot, that's generally speaking a special activity.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just talking about if it's a regular part of the business.
Yeah, if it's a regular part of the business.
Yeah, we have those all the time.
Yeah, I think just fine. And if like you have a back patio or something like that, and like you're allowed to, then there are some provisions entitling a team on the times that are allowed to do that without a special or without a conditional use permit. So generally speaking, live entertainment is allowed until 11 p.m. indoors. Want to go past that, you need a conditional use permit. Outdoors, it's 10 p.m. And so yeah, it depends on where you're at. And if you have residential adjacency, like residential zone property, if you're within 150 feet, that's a different ballgame. Yeah, and there's extra provisions.
I agree with the gentleman there. That seems pretty clear to me. So where is the Where's
You
the
know,
fuzziness?
some of the definitions of like what constitutes live entertainment, like if people are doing, you know, like I said, like bringing in a DJ and playing a trivia game, that came.
I remember that one, yeah.
And so there was a lot of public comment on that and why it required that, and the interpretation of NRS said that that's what it required. And I think that there needs to be a little bit, it needs to be clear so that everybody can see like, yes, this is what requires one, this is what doesn't, and there's not much of ambiguity.
So there's nothing in here that differentiated someone just reading this raw between that, and especially that it's just a one-time or
yeah, exactly,
like periodic, infrequent.
Yeah,
so maybe that would help. Because
exactly.
do I really need? I go to cabaret license. I'm just having you know, a jazz band in my flower show.
Right.
So okay, great, thanks.
I was a cabaret liquor license holder, and now my tenants are. They've been grandfathered in, 25-year business, but now I don't like the last part there. Did you see that shoe? It appears to be satisfaction of the council that the singing, dancing, or entertainment unreasonably disturbs any person in any adjoining room or building or neighborhood, then they can pull your license. I don't like that part.
Sure.
So that's why the code should be in there on the noise, but not just because if you have a complaining neighbor, they can pull your license. Or if all of a sudden I have a building on 4th Street, for some stupid reason during COVID, they approved 24 units in an industrial area by the scrapyard there on 4th Street. I paid extra to be an industrial zoned area. And now they changed it to mixed use. And during COVID, their friend Ken Crater got an approved residence there. So now there's 24 units going in. Who do you think is going to be bitching and complaining? The 24 units next to the fire station in the middle of the industrial neighborhood with a scrapyard booming, and there's nightclubs there. So then what? So I don't like that part, because then they're going after everyone instead of the bad actor. And if you have a complaining neighbor, then, oh, it's in the codes. They're slipping it in right there.
Okay.
I don't like that.
Okay.
So then, like Wild River Grill, or anyone who has just an outdoor patio, or like you said, back patio, is that still, the cabaret license still applies to that because it's part of this business?
Yeah, exactly. If that's the way outside. Yeah, if it wasn't just like I made the determination like a parking lot should be a little different, right? But if it's a patio area, then yeah, if you have a cabaret
license, I have a patio license in the front of my building. Sure. My property is part of my permit, part of my license. Yeah, so I can play music and have bands out there. Yeah, so that would be fine as long as you're in the time constraints of like I said, of Title 18. And if you have a special event or a special activity permit, you can potentially go beyond that limit depending on what the parameters of that. So you can only have
the outdoor entertainment
cabaret license outside to a certain time.
Inside or outside. Yeah, inside or outside, it's till 11 o'clock. But inside 11, inside 10 is how it's written.
But you kind of have DJs or music after 11 o'clock inside your home business.
Not the way the code in Title 18 is written.
So what are nightclubs about?
A lot of those would have conditional use permits to allow for that. So if like a nightclub wanted to have it, then they'd have to come and get a conditional use permit.
I was going to say they do the conditional use permit, which is a case by case evaluation, not a blanket.
Yeah, exactly.
So like a wall.
Yeah.
You need to tell 11.
Yeah, if like a radio, like that's different. Live entertainment though, like a band or a DJ, something like that. Those are still safe.
The only question, I mean, realize I don't hold one of these licenses, so I'm looking at this from a public standpoint. Is the definition of cabaret license one that the public is going to understand, or does that term eventually want to change? So the public understands what it is. It didn't happen here, but there's part of the example in another city. It was a supper club license, and a whole bunch of people were objecting. And I said, well, would Applebee's be okay? Right. They said yes. And I went, well, guess what a supper club is?
Right. And that's the whole point of this rewrite. Is terms like this, they're outdated, right?
The industry may understand it, but is the public going to understand it?
The industry does not understand it. So that's a good.
Well, when you apply for your license, they tell you what licenses you need for what you're doing, and then they'll say that one together.
Yeah, but the second you get to a public hearing for any reason, they now don't understand, the public doesn't understand it, and they object, even though they may not.
Yeah. So when you see this, then how does a person know, how would they refer to say that music must end by 11 o'clock? Where is this?
In the business licensing code, it's not in there. And that would be a perfect opportunity to put it. It's in the Title 18 land use code.
Right, Right, so if you have a cabaret license, there's nothing in there saying, oh, I have to stop at 11.
Right, not in the
That
title, not in the
nothing
title.
to that title to show me that that's the truth.
Right.
Yeah, I don't think 11 is, it shouldn't refer to that. Sure, if you're paying this much money for a cabaret license, you should be able to go 24 hours in the space if you want.
If it's inside and it's within a noise restriction, that's what everyone's always
We're paying
done.
a lot of money for this to say, oh, we have to stop it.
Casino has it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I didn't even realize that.
I appreciate the feedback. It's great. Yeah.
But that's exactly why if you want it 24 hours, well, that has to be so strict. If there was a little bit more leeway in the time, depending upon, I don't know, a whole bunch of different situations, maybe it wouldn't need to be so strict. You could have a bit more wiggle room. Because I agree, just at face value, I know from a legal standpoint, that's the only thing you can really enforce. Anything less than that becomes too much on a sliding scale as to what's unreasonable and what's disturbance.
Yeah.
I mean, it really, really, really depends.
Yeah.
So, but when you want 24 hours, that's why that's there. Because you've got to have some control because of the bad actors that do happen, just a few.
Sure.
That's why it's there.
Sure. And unreasonable's definition can be changed. You're not my friend, you're unreasonable, you're my friend, and you can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
So that's why that's cloudy. And but I do agree to help certain people, like mine is an industrial area, but now they built these people in. So now I think, you know, within code on the noise restriction inside, they should do it by that, not on unreasonable disturbances of building. It should be in there to maybe have a certain decimal, and then it helps them and it helps everybody. And my 24 new neighbors that are going to be moving in. So that way that's reasonable. But yet too, then all of a sudden, what will they call unreasonable? If there's a fight one night outside, they'll call it unreasonable. And that could happen anywhere in front of any business. So it just, there's too much clouding there to where if you're not their best buddy or friend, they could do things to you.
Sure. Okay. Yeah.
You said the time of restrictions were in Title 18?
Yeah.
Which is under what heading?
That's the land development code, land and annexation development, and an annexation code is what it's called, the Title 18.
Right.
How long's that been there?
That specific piece has been there for about a year.
Okay, that's
Pretty
what
odd place to put it.
Maybe a year.
they slipped that in.
Yeah, so that went through, I want to say, actually, I think it was last October. Yeah. And then went through, like, obviously went through the normal process, through council and everything. There was a couple changes to Title 18 that were affected at that exact same time.
Even if you have a 25-year license, now all of a sudden they can implement this stuff.
That's right. Any more questions on this for now? Anybody online? No? All right. So this slide just is basically all of the alcohol licenses. Just to be summarized, you've got the manufacturers, wholesalers, dining room, package, nonprofit, on premises, which is like a bar, dining room, that one's, they don't talk to each other in there, but dining room, wine and beer, dining room, alcohol, and then a caterer's license. These are all basically the alcohol licenses that a constituent could apply for. There's some wording issue, like some people call it package and know what that means. Some people say, what is package alcohol? I don't understand what that means, you know. Some people call it off-premise, some people call it off-site. I don't know if there's been confusion in your experience on any of that. Like you said, we tell you the license you need for the most part, but it's nice to be able to read it and understand what it means as well. The definitions get into it, we can figure it out, but I know we get a lot of questions on that kind of thing, so I just figured I'd bring it up and see if anybody had any experience or any thoughts on how we label these licenses. Should there be any consolidation? Should there be more breakout? Some of the things in these licenses, like what's a canned drink? What's a seltzer? Like what's a White Claw? Is it wine and beer? Is it alcohol? I've gotten interpretations from multiple saying it's this and saying it's that. So we want to get into that and define it. You know, where does it fit? You want to sell these? That's great. We just need to know what it applies to. So any questions on these?
What does dining room? I'm still dining room, alcoholic beverage.
Yeah, so dining room is when it's associated with a restaurant. So like you have to serve food while your bar is open.
was gonna say food service.
Yeah, there are levels. I have licenses to serve food, but under it's a deli license, which still allows me to serve raw meat, cooked food.
Sure.
Is that part of dining?
Well, if you're on the other side of it because you're not required to do that. So like you could serve your food and everything, but you're on premise alcohol. You're not just a dining room. The dining room ones are limited to that, right? So like on premise is a step higher. So if I'm just a restaurant that's open till say 10 o'clock and we serve alcohol, that means you're done. When the kitchen closed, you can't serve it. But if you're on premise, you can serve it until whatever you like. The kitchen can close at any time. So that's the difference in there. And we do get that question a lot too. So the definitions on these kind of things could be addressed and could be more clear. Again, like you just looked at that. I mean, you have a license and it's not a dining room license, but it's nice to know that you can just look at it.
So then also, what would be the difference if I got off-premise alcohol beverage license versus catered alcohol beverage license?
A caterer's license is
if I want to do a pop-up at Food Truck Fridays and do my bar truck.
Right, that would be a caterer.
Or my off-premise.
In this case, we don't have off-premise. Off-premise is packaged, right? So it means it's sold for consumption off-site. You would be in your situation, it would be a caterer's license. And so like packaged alcohol is something you go at a mini mart, at a grocery store, at maybe a pub. You know, I mean, not a pub, but like a
different background check license separate from the initial on-premise license.
If you were to come in right now, how the background code works right now is if it has been less than 2 years, it would be a much simpler process. If it's been more than 2 years for your background, you just get another. But it's the same background check.
So that's like an add-on, like the cabaret license.
Exactly. It's an additional
existing business.
Yeah. Exactly. Any other questions on this stuff?
I'd like to back up a second.
Sure.
Because you threw me for a loop with a code that was written a year ago and no one went.
Sure.
So what are you saying inside a building? That what now? 11 o'clock?
Yeah, it says that entertainment is allowed until 11 p.m. And then if it's outside, it's allowed until 10 p.m.
So inside you can't do a DJ till.
What's that?
The doors have to close at 9. Right.
That if you're doing it inside, your doors and windows need to be shut by 9, but you can have the entertainment until 11. If it's outside, it's until 10.
But I mean, in a 24-hour town, and there's people that keep going till 2 and 3 in the morning, you're saying there can't be any entertainment inside?
If there's a conditional use permit attached, they can. But if you just come in and apply for your bar downtown and you want to have a cabaret license and do bands, you would have to shut down at 11 unless you got a conditional use permit.
So do you need a conditional use permit and a cabaret license, or one or the other?
You need both. The use permit is the review. The use permit is essentially the administrative review that planning does, and then that gets approved by council as well. Conditional use permit gets approved by the planning commission.
The license is the permit. The conditional use permit is a public hearing to modify the rules associated with it.
It's an entitlement for the land.
Right. And what's the fee associated with it?
For a conditional use permit, off the top of my head, a couple $1,000. I don't know.
Annually?
No, one time.
One time.
One time, yeah. It's a one-time administrative review.
If they give it to you. Because now this place has been a 24-hour nightclub. Of course, they're closed during the day, and sometimes when people are leaving, you close it too. But they have the option to stay open later.
Right. And
that's always been that way. So now all of a sudden they snuck this in, and they want to put like nightclubs out of business and stuff, and try to close them down at 11 to go for review. What if it's an old license? Still got to go for review on all these extra fees and licensing?
On the actual conditional use permits, on the old stuff, I'm not positive.
I just want to kind of piggyback onto what Lance is saying. So you'll still go through your planning review, and planning will still make the determination based off of your zone. So when you're asking specific questions about your business that's been in business, there's a good chance that planning during the review process was already grandfathered in, or that zone already allowed for a 24-hour use. But that all those questions and all of these reviews for planning, they go through the planning division for your alcohol. So I don't have like an actual answer, but I can definitely take a look if you want.
No,
and I can. I was like, I could totally do it. I'll look and I'll find it for you.
Sometimes I'd rather ask for forgiveness and permission, but that's what it is.
Thanks. Anything else on this? Okay. The next slide. Okay, so gaming. I don't know if there are any gaming licensees here or on Zoom, but the gaming code for Reno is very small. It's only a couple chapters, sorry, a couple sections. And for good reason. I think that these state regulated businesses, they have the rules, they make the rules. We are approving it in the city, and there's not a whole lot that we have jurisdiction that we can, button down or make it. We definitely can't make things looser than the state, but we can button down. But in an industry like gaming, that's all the rules are followed under the state, under the NRS. So we do have a couple things in here, and I know, again, this is just open for discussion. Anybody that wants to bring anything up, any issues with the application process or the way that it gets licensed or questions of that nature, I'm happy to answer or take comment. Yeah.
Are we looking to change anything in this particular chapter under gaming?
Specifically,
because it is so small.
I'm a fan specifically of referencing NRS if it's instead of regurgitating the language, right? And putting in extra provisions just to write it out. If we can streamline it and say, this applies to NRS, see that, then leave the application stuff that like what we would require for an application or amendment, get specific with that in our code. That's kind of the idea, just to make it kind of fit the model of what a lot of the other chapters are. More recently, the cannabis chapters were updated, and just to be more streamlined. That's kind of the idea with this. And unless we get some, a bunch of concerned licensees that would like to see some sort of change.
It seems to me this chapter has got absolutely just one reason to be there, and that's generating revenue. Because the state license requirements and what we've had to the hoops we have to jump through to get licensed by the state. The county has the same thing because they want money, the city wants money, and that's the only reason this stuff is there. It doesn't even matter what it says. Sure. It's just money.
Sure. No, that's a fair comment. Yeah. Anybody else on gaming at all? Anybody online?
Thanks. Can I just piggyback on you? You referred to cannabis. We're not there yet. Right. So Laurie is going to come up sometime and we will be. Sure. So you're saying that the basis for the administrative code related to cannabis consumption energy, for example, would be taken directly from NRS.
Yeah, ideally. I mean, just the regulation of them in general. Like the application stuff we can control, but when it comes to, like for instance in cannabis, regurgitating language that says they must be packaged and labeled with this and this and this. Why are we regurgitating the NRS in our code? Making it hard to do it. Like we can just say reference NRS. This is the requirement, So similar to gaming, I think that's probably the best way to streamline things. That's a personal opinion.
I say regurgitating rules actually creates problems potentially because one will change and they won't agree anymore.
And that's what we've seen in our code a little bit because just being things outdated.
Just reference the other.
Yeah, exactly. Nobody online? Okay. All right, next one. Tobacco paraphernalia. Again, I don't know if anybody has this license in the room or on Zoom, but we don't get a lot of questions about tobacco paraphernalia. We're in the process of trying to identify if paraphernalia products are all subject to the same law as the 21 and over cigarette law that went into effect that you referenced earlier. So that may be something that gets addressed in this code just for an update, if you're not allowed to buy that, because as it currently stands in RMC, you have to be 18 to buy paraphernalia. So I need to reference state law and get with those people to see if products are also 21 and over at this point. But generally speaking, the rules are pretty straightforward. You can't have juveniles selling the products, anybody under 18. Yeah. Sorry, that's all right. And then, sales and display. These again, like if we can reference state law and we don't have anything that we want to tighten down, we'll try to do that as well. But we'd like to make it. We want to make it all consistent. We don't want to have different rules from the state, obviously.
So while reading the chapter, I do think that we need to strike out juvenile because that's 18 and under. Well, the law is now 21 and under. Okay. So, and also while reading the chapter, it says that tobacco paraphernalia cannot be viewed by juveniles. I think we need to strike that out and just make it so they're not accessible to.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Sure, yeah, good comment. Yeah, we'll definitely.
And then also, are you guys looking to change the penalties?
There hasn't been any discussion of it. Honestly, like I said, we don't get, I don't get personally a lot of questions or issues popping up with these. It's open for discussion. If that's something that the community would like to see, then we'll definitely throw it in and for discussion and see how council feels about it too.
So this is my own personal education. Why is paraphernalia used in this terminology?
I couldn't.
Because you get a negative connotation and it's not necessarily that, so.
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that. This came into effect, I want to say 2015-ish, I think. And I don't know the whole backstory of how this one came about, but
I believe
2012 is when this one came in.
I could also be wrong, but I believe that you can be fined for having tobacco paraphernalia, which is why it also brings into question, why is paraphernalia used in it?
The term.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's a great comment. We can look into that as well.
Don't quote me on that.
Yeah, if it needs an update, again, cabaret license, maybe it's not paraphernalia. Maybe that's not the best way to reference it. So I appreciate that.
It may have been the term that was originally used in the law that, or the legislation that puts this
could be
rules. So who knows?
Yeah.
So what is the age on smoking now?
21.
21.
To buy cigarettes.
So you go to your country and fight and die in a war at 18, and then they make you turn 21 to smoke. I don't condone smoking, I don't, but it doesn't make much sense. You drive a car at 16.
Right.
Kill somebody and that's something else.
Sure.
All right.
Yeah.
So it was said earlier that in order to buy tobacco, you have to be 21, and you have to use electronic age verification. Again, we want to see that same language applied to alcohol.
Okay.
And then I do not recall, but I think at this past session, they tried to make it so cannabis also requires electronic age verification.
Okay.
So we would like to see that for all age restricted items.
Okay.
You have to scan your ID.
Okay, great.
And is that just for packaged alcohol? Or are you asking that's required of bar owners to scan an ID of each patron?
What's your interpretation? Are you asking for more of like a sales over the counter, or are you talking about it more?
That's a damn good question. Do not quote me on this, but personally, probably all the above.
Okay.
Because you can't exempt one and not the, you can do some carve outs, but I think in this particular case, you can't, it's not applicable.
Okay.
Which that's not going to.
I don't agree with any of that. They need to be tracked on every single thing you do.
Yeah.
So why be 21 in the United States of America and be tracked every second of everything? So I don't agree with that at all.
Okay.
Well, you gotta be 21 to buy booze, come on.
Yeah, but I would say track how many drinks you have.
At the door, I guess, would be.
But is that electronic verification passive, just, or is that collected data that is then compiled and
They scan
through
So
other?
it depends on your POS system. Some of them carry it for an X amount of time, some of them don't. That's between you, the owner, and your operating system.
Got it.
I do know that True Age, granted, I do not know how long they hold the data, but True Age is free for Nevada. So if you want to have electronic age verification, they offer it for free.
Is that a POS system, True Age, or?
Yeah.
Do not put me on that.
Okay.
So, but in some of the bars in the casinos, if you want to buy a pack of cigarettes, this is what gaming guy got back to me on the gaming question you asked me. But if you want to buy a pack of cigarettes at a bar in a casino, you have to have electronic ID verification.
Okay.
So
that's everywhere though. Cigarettes
across the board now.
Yeah, across the board.
Right. But in the casino, it's not.
So you said it's not in the casino.
Right.
Oh, okay. I thought you said you had to.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So the what you heard was that in the casino you don't.
Yeah, there's some inconsistency there. Is that you can get fined if you don't do the age verification.
So is that a cutout in NRS?
It is, so I can't speak to that, the age verification, it was an issue brought up during the last session, because the resorts and gaming in Vegas, they give out cigarettes as complimentary, but in order to be on the gaming floor, you have to be 21. So it's automatically assumed that those who are on the floor can get the cigarettes because they are 21. And the way that I understand it, to have your gaming license is far more strict than the sell of cigarettes and tobacco.
Sure.
So losing your gaming license because of that carries more weight.
Got it. Okay.
Those are all good comments for sure, so sure.
I don't mind someone asking me for my ID, but the scanning thing in a store and seeing what you're getting and when. If you show your ID, they can see you're 21.
Okay.
But for the tracking, I don't like that.
Okay.
I wonder if the electronic verification is simply to make it so people can tell fake IDs apart.
Yes.
Without having the special knowledge.
Part of it is, yes, and there's a lot of human error.
Yeah.
Or, hey, my best friend who's 16 wants to come in, I look at their ID, they're clearly 16, but I read it as they're 25. Granted, this is an exaggeration, but situations like this can and have happened.
And it sounds like perhaps the rules, because there's concerns, and this, I know this isn't yours, but perhaps the solution is the rules need to say, scan it to verify validity and hold no data.
Correct.
And just make it that simple. Because you're right, they shouldn't necessarily be guaranteeing they can track everything just because you're citing the field with them.
Sure. Okay. It's an interesting conversation for sure.
I don't know how much control you ultimately have on it either.
No, this will all be.
It might be federal or state.
And like I said, I don't know how the other jurisdictions are handling this kind of stuff, this item. But we'll definitely be looking for comparisons, you know, in how our locals do it and statewide. And, it'll be brought up for discussion for sure, because obviously there's a lot of varying opinions on it. So
some of the folks I represent do it to make sure the ID is legal, because if it's not and they sell it, but it shows it's the person's over 21 or older, you know, they get in trouble.
Got it.
They don't keep the information. It's like, here it is. They scan it. Yeah, it's valid. Here's the product.
Got it.
And there are verification systems that are more sophisticated where they can read military IDs and even tribal IDs. So
not just a driver's license.
Exactly.
But you're also adding extra cost for.
Yes, some of them do read.
Because that stuff is expensive, because when we had to switch this year for the tobacco one, a scanner alone was $2,500 for one register. Right now, if you have multiple registers, right, we had to pay $5,000 for two. Right.
Who's your POS?
PC America.
Okay.
The thing is, even so, you keep asking about a POS. When you run a business, your business isn't based on the POS. You're looking to get the best deal you can from a credit card processor, and whoever's going to give you the best deal, you're going with that POS. And just so that you're reducing your cost, you're not going with, oh, I have to have this one, and they're breaking you over the goals. So the POS isn't, we're not choosing a POS, we're choosing a credit card processing system and whatever POSs they work with. That's how it usually should work.
And as
so it's difficult to say, oh, this one has this verification, yet they're charging me, 25 cents per transaction and 3 point something interest.
You can use a different POS, but you can have a different credit card processing, you can have a different scan, and pretty much just go to what's best benefit. And for us,
so that would be a separate additional thing we'd have to have and purchase and okay. So as a small business then we can get to places.
Sure. Okay. Anybody online have any questions? No.
So is this the only input? So us 8 people in the room yesterday and today is going to decide this for the whole city. I mean,
I certainly hope
it's just ridiculous.
And once we get a draft together, I hope that there's a lot more. I think some people are afraid to weigh in on opinions until they see what's going to be written or what's been proposed. So I hope to get a lot more engagement as the process goes on and we get a draft out there, and then people read it in black and white and go like, oh, I don't like that at all, or oh, that's a great idea. I hope that the participation will only grow with this whole thing.
Good business friendly.
Yeah, exactly, and that's hard to make. So yeah, so Next meeting will be these items listed here. The ones that jump off the page, at least in my view, and maybe I don't want to speak for everybody, but mobile vending units, which is like a food truck. I could see a little bit of concern with some of the pawnbroker and secondhand dealers. That's kind of an old code. Don't get a lot of interaction with auctions and auctioneers, other than the fact that I gave you an example yesterday of, it doesn't call out internet auctions, right? But it's all the same intent of an auctioneer. So there's things like that need to be clarified. Peddlers, solicitors, temporary merchants kind of go along the way with how sidewalk vending is looking these days. So there may be some consolidation there. Special events, I expect a lot of people to show up, and I hope they do, because it's a big talk, and it always comes up at council, and we get lots of questions, and I hope we get a lot of participation in that, so address concerns and get ideas on how to move forward. Towing and booting and vehicles for hire are probably less controversial, and then television production, that's basically like film permits and things like that. Kind of goes along with special events. So
thanks. The sidewalk vendors include like food, sidewalk.
Say that one more time.
Sidewalk vendors.
Yes.
I mean, they can include a lot of like clothing, but does that include food as well?
It does.
And don't look past that one.
Yeah, and for reference, that one right now we're working on in council. We were given direction to adjust our code to fit the state's new law, which came out just this last legislature, that there are certain restrictions for sidewalk vending now. They can't do it within 1,500 feet of an unrestricted resort hotel or a convention space. So we're in the process of modifying that code right now. So what's going to happen, unfortunately, with this one, we're going to take as much comment as we can. We're going to have a new set of regulation right at the new year, probably. And then we'll be able to adjust it, obviously, if we get that regulation. Everybody throws in their opinions on how we can make it better. But it's one of those things where we're required by the legislature to have that in effect by January 1st. So we're working on it ahead of time. Right now, actually, at this point. So probably in the next month, that will be back in front of council for an introduction. Yeah.
I have a complicated kind of question.
Sure.
All right. So I do have a liquor license, privilege license. I do have from Washoe County Health and a deli license, which allows me to serve food as well.
Yeah.
From my understanding, because I have food licenses, so food trucks, that I can have minors in my space.
Yeah.
Because they serve food, they can't be at the bar, but I am able to have minors in my space legally.
I'm glad you brought that up, because that's how
it's not clear anywhere.
Exactly.
Because like just liquor truck, if you have alcohol, you can have minors, but I have food, can I have minors?
So basically we're falling back on like that, the definition of dining room, right? You're allowed to have, it goes the same with gaming. In the gaming code, it actually calls it out a little bit more clear. That if there's gaming in the establishment, there has to be separation between the players, right? In the alcohol code, it doesn't really do that. It talks a little bit about like restaurant booths and if there are bona fide meals. What's a bona fide meal? Like, yeah. I mean, I know what they're going for, but it's not very clear to everybody else. Like, that's kind of stuff that needs to be, called out and say that yes, if you serve food, minors are allowed. They have to stay on this side of the wall, or in the booth, or in the dining area, or whatever it may be. It's just not clear. So, like, yes, for your purposes, as the law sits, you offer food, they can have food, or they can be there when there's food. Once the food stops, they're supposed to get out. And that's what you would often see if police were to come on site. Yeah. They would say, like, why are they windows here? There's no business for them, right?
In the banquet area in a casino too, they'll have a bar there and a kid there, or a bowling alley.
Sure.
They can drink a beer and the kid's sitting there. So
sure. Yeah.
Not to be the bad actor that serves a kid the beer, not right. The establishment.
Yeah. You gonna say here?
Are you wrapping up?
Yeah, this is just the end of it.
So I just had a few procedural questions about going forward.
Yeah.
So this is being recorded on video and it will be uploaded sometime on the your webpage.
That's right. I hope by the end of the week that we'll have them up there.
Okay. Are you also doing minutes in terms of, is it going to be documented in writing, or is that the only way in terms of the public record that it's out there for everyone to see?
So basically what we're going to do is we'll go comb through the video ourselves as well and make notes and, create some sort of like an outline with like, these were topics that were broached, these were questions that were asked, that kind of thing. We'll put it on the
Would you include the name of the people who made the comments too?
I don't know that we'll have the ability to do that just based on how we're doing it right now, like, yeah, I can certainly try, but I don't know that I have the ability to do that.
Okay, to that point then again, so this doesn't qualify exactly as public comment entirely. That's if your name is associated with it. So that can be referenced by somebody else wanting to come back to you with questions or comments or clarifications. So the webpage doesn't appear to have something to upload documentation. There's a place to write public comments, right?
Yeah.
But is there one? Is there?
You mean like attachments and things like that? No, but I think if you just send us the email through BL Code, why don't you go to the next slide real quick, just so that's up there. There's the website where you can submit the forms and everything, but we also have this email, BL Code, and you could submit attachments.
Yeah, that was my question.
That's probably
my question.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's where also, would there be notation as to who that came from, or if they're representing someone like an organization?
If it comes through the BL Code email, yeah, we'll definitely put that up.
And that can be seen as well.
Exactly.
Okay. And just finally, in terms of the steps after this, so you're going to gather your thoughts and the comments together. Are you going to start redlining, or are you going to just turn this over to the consultant to begin with and have them redline for you?
Right. So we're going to take all the input that we get from the community. We're going to take the input that we like the little things that, like I said, that I brought up, that like these cause issues when we do licensing, like the approval processes and the you know, the things in the code that get confusing. So we have our set of notes as well. And then we have notes from the council for over the years, like, why do we do it this way? Why do we do it that way?
Sure.
And then also the inner departments, like code enforcement. Maybe code enforcement can't do their job because of something that's here. Or maybe they would like to see it freed up because they get the complaints for this. They want to point, you know, the different directions. So we're using an interdepartmental review as well. Once we get all that information, we're going to push it off to the consultant, and then they're going to give us a draft back. And then at that point, they're pretty much out of it. Other than maybe some touch-ups after we come back to the community and say, what did you like? What did you not like? We'll revisit with the consultant. And then obviously we'll have a massive internal review departmentally, our city attorney's office, everybody will look over everything and the community will have, at that point, we'll have to do a business impact statement to, you know, basically.
So will the documents be redlined?
Yes.
The public gets, so we can, it's not a blank slate.
Right.
I agree with whoever's not here today. That
yeah.
In many ways, it's easier to wait to see what you guys say as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, but it'll be clearly shown what would be, what you're thinking of deleting,
yes,
and what you're adding in exactly the same location where it should be.
Yeah, that's the plan.
Very good, thank you.
Yeah, there's one more thing about it. So just as the wording, and everyone in downtown has helped me, and I understand it now, but I've talked to other owners who didn't understand this. Yeah. It's I forget what it is, it's the line item where it's how much you did in sales, but it's based on like non-alcohol stuff. It's just soda and stuff like that. But I've seen other bar owners literally putting in what they've made in revenue and didn't realize they were being charged that amount and didn't realize that was only meant to be like soda, like non-alcoholic, because that line item isn't clear.
Gotcha.
No, that's to fill out your.
That would be a good thing.
It literally says, "What was your revenue?"
Gotcha.
Okay. And so you think it is your alcohol sales, which it is not.
I think that's probably something that we could word and utilize in Title IV under the main license.
I don't even know why it's not there. Why is it? I'm paying my liquor license and all this, then why am I paying soda I sold?
Yeah, basically
non-alcoholic, any non-alcoholic thing.
The way that it's written now is separate. Everything non-alcoholic is basically
and that's a separate fee and based on percent. Like why am I not just paying my liquor license and code is underneath that?
Because the non-alcoholic sales go to your cost for your business license. Should be my guess. Because your renewal on your business license is based upon your revenue.
No, it isn't. Not for my liquor license. It's not.
No, for the general business license, it is.
It does everything together.
It's only.
Yeah, I see what you're saying from making it. Why couldn't it fall under?
Like if I have a liquor license, what's the difference that I sold 2,000 in Coke that $20,000 just in soda or Coke?
I guess in different situations you get different. Like if you're looking at I don't know, just a big restaurant, and maybe the alcohol sales are like 10% of that. Well, the other 90% of your sales are all going to be food, right? So they want to capture that. That's your primary. That's where you're going to capture the business license and fees on food, and the alcohol is an accessory use to that. So, like in your case of a bar, that is your primary. That's your primary sales. Right. So, no, I see what you're saying.
Yeah. It just gets confusing.
Maybe there's other opportunities out there to to talk about scenarios like that. So we'll keep an eye on it. We'll take that.
That's just confusing. Sure, at the beginning I thought it was the whole revenue. It isn't clear that just is supposed to be non-alcohol.
Gotcha.
Items.
Okay. Anybody else? Any general questions or like that? Okay. Well, again, if you have more questions, I'll be doing this again tonight. Same thing. And then next Monday and next Tuesday, for the subjects that we referenced before, that's Monday, and then there's some more on Tuesday. If you feel free to listen in, don't be afraid to jump up on Zoom if there's a question you have. Otherwise, email, website, that website right there, there'll be a link that'll take you directly to the main page of the code rewrite. There's a lot of links and resources there that I think are pretty helpful. So anything else, just let me know or shoot us an email. Appreciate you coming.
Thanks, man.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
See you later.
No, if you have questions on that stuff,
Yeah, that one I was like, wow.
Yeah.
I had a friend who was paying, she's paying this total revenue.
Is that right?
And didn't realize, I was like,